Today we're going to review what we know already about area. So we've been working on area for a couple weeks now, but we've only been working with the area of regular shapes. So before we go on to finding the area of irregular shapes, I want to first review what we already know and practice. So we know that area is the amount of space inside of a shape. If we look at this shape on the grid paper, this space in here is its area. Area is measured in square units. So each of these squares is 1 square unit. If we counted them all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way down to the last one, if we counted everything, we would get 25. That would be 25 square units. We don't know if it's square centimeters or square inches or square feet at this point. It's just units. Area is found by multiplying the length of a shape by its width. So the length and the width are the same on this shape. 5 units and 5 units. So if we multiplied 5 times 5, we would get 25, just like we did when we counted each one. 25 square units is the area of this shape. So we are going to practice doing that with a couple of practice finding the area of a regular shape. So here we have a rectangle. Our rectangle is 3 centimeters wide and 7 centimeters long. So the length is 7 centimeters. The width is 3 centimeters, right? So what this means is that there are 7 square units across for the length and 3 square units up and down for the width. Okay, so think of it like an array. We've learned how to multiply numbers using an array. So it's the same exact thing, which is why when we multiply the length times the width, we will get the area. If we counted each square, we can also find the area. So we can count 1, 2, 3, we can count each square. And that is okay sometimes, but remember that does take a long time, and it will get more complicated as we have to find the area of irregular shapes. So we're going to try our best to multiply for the area. And remember, you're not always going to have these squares. So if you can't multiply, you might need to make the squares. So 7 times 3, we're multiplying the length times the width. And we know that 7 times 3 equals 21. So our area is 21, but it's not just 21. It's not 21 centimeters, right? Because it's not 21. One side is a centimeter here. It's not 21 of these, it's 21 squares. So the area of this is 21 centimeters squared, or 21 square centimeters. So let's do another example to practice. So here we have another rectangle, and this rectangle is 6 inches long and 4 inches wide. So that means that this side of our rectangle, if you measured it, it would be 6 inches. And this side of the rectangle, its width, if we measured it, it would be 4 inches. Now, what that also means in terms of area is that there are 6 square inches across and 4 square inches up and down. So again, it's like an array. So instead of counting all the squares, because remember that takes a lot of time, we are going to multiply 4 times 6, or 6 times 4. Remember, with multiplication, it does not matter what order you multiply the factors. So we're looking at 4 times 6. And we know 4 times 6 equals 24. Now remember, the answer is not 24, because I don't know what that 24 means. That could mean there are 24 pennies, or it's 24 feet, or there are 24 children at the park, or there are 24 cookies left to eat. 24 doesn't mean anything unless you put a unit with it. And the unit here is inches, but it's not just inches because we're not just talking about the length or just talking about the width. We're talking about the area, the space inside. So we're talking about how many square units. So the area is 24 square inches, or you can say 24 inches squared. That is our area. So now we're going to look at how we can find the area of irregular shapes. So basically an irregular shape is just a shape that has many different sides of many different lengths, and you can't just find the area by multiplying length times width because it doesn't have a complete side. So now we're going to try to find the area of irregular shapes. So an irregular shape is just a shape that has many different sides that are not the same. And in order to find the area, you have to do something a little bit different, and we're going to see what that is. So one thing you can do to find the area of an irregular shape is to count the unit squares. Now, we talked about this before. That is always an option, but it is not the quickest and most efficient option. But here we have our shape. It's like an L shape, it's an upside down L, and it's on grid paper. So if you have grid paper, you can always draw your shape on grid paper. However, right now we have the grid paper and we're just going to count the unit squares. So I'm not going to count for you out loud because you know how to count, but I'm telling you that if I counted all of them, that it would be 40 square units. So if I counted each one at a time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to this last unit right here, it would be 60 square units. So this entire shape is 60 square units. But let's look at a different way that we can solve this. So another way to solve or find the area of an irregular shape is to break it up into rectangles and then find the area of each rectangle and add those areas. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to break this irregular shape into rectangles. So here we have one rectangle. You see the line I put here to split? And I have two rectangles. I'm going to find the area of the first rectangle. Now, this first rectangle has a length of 8 and a width of 5. So I'm going to multiply 8 times 5. And we know 8 times 5 is 40. Now let's look at our next shape. Length of 5, width of 4. 4 times 5 equals 20. Now I have one area is 40, or 40 square units, and one is 20 square units. I'm going to add those together, and I find that 40 plus 20 equals 60. Therefore, the area is 60 square units. So this shape was very easy to break up into two rectangles, find the area, and then add them together to find the area of the entire irregular shape. Okay, so let's look at another irregular shape. So here we have a shape that we can actually split up into 3 rectangles. Well, we need to split it up into 3 rectangles. So I'm going to split it here and here. And if you notice, I have a rectangle here, a second one here, and a third one here. So I have the dimensions, and I have the length and the width of each of the rectangles, and I also have the unit square grid to help me if I need to check on that. So I'm going to start with this rectangle. So this rectangle has a length of 6 units and a width of 2 square units. So for that, I am going to do 6 times 2, and I know 6 times 2 equals 12. So this rectangle here is 12 square units. So I'm just going to put that there for now, and I'm going to move on. So here we have 6 length. So don't let this 10 confuse you. This 10 is the length of the entire shape. Here we are just looking at this rectangle. So the length again is 6 square units and the width is 2 square units. So again, we actually have 6 times 2 again, which is 12. And here again, I'm going to just mark the 12 so that we can move on to our last rectangle, which we are going to get the same dimensions for, because if you look, it's the same. 2, 2 for our width, 6, 6 for our length. So 6 times 2 is 12. And here we have 12. Now this just happened to work out that each of the rectangles was equal. Well, they were equal to each other in area. So now we're just going to add 12, 12, and 12 to get 36. So 36 is our answer. And again, we can't just put 36. We have to put square units. So the area is 36 square units. Let's look at one last example. So our shape here is another L shape. It is this blue area right here, this light blue area. We're going to see how we're going to split the shape into irregular shape into 2 regular rectangles. So we could either split the shape here, or we could split it here. And I'm going to split the shape right here. And I'm now going to look at my 2 rectangles, and I'm going to find the area of each of them, and then I'm going to add the area together. So here I have a length of 8 units and a width of 3 units. 8 times 3 is 24. So my area for this rectangle is going to be 24 square units. Now I just put 24 there because I'm just keeping it there to remind me of what the area is, but remember at the end we have to make it square units. So here we have our second rectangle. So here, remember the 8, don't let the 8 confuse you. The 8 is the entire length of the shape, but we're just looking at this side of the rectangle because it's just this area. So the length is 5 and the width is 3. So I'm going to multiply 5 times 3 equals 15. This area is 15 square units. Now we have to add the area together. 24 plus 15 equals 39. So our area is 39 square units. And that is how you find the area of irregular shape.